Hello, these notes are to explain how we transform between the different forms that we've been working on in Algebra 1. So on the left here we have what the form is and what we want to go to. So the first one would be standard form, which looks like this. What if we wanted to go to intercept form? Factored, or intercept form to standard form, vertex form to standard form. So first of all, basically the concept is if it's in standard form like this and you want to go to factored form, we factor it in the exact same way that we factored in Unit 7. So reviewing factoring, the very first thing we would want to do is take out a GCF if possible. I noticed that I have all these three things are divisible by -2. So I'm going to pull that -2 out to the front. I just am writing it once, so I don't have to do it all 3 times. But yes, I'm going to divide each of those expressions or monomials by -2, and I'm left with x squared. 4x divided by -2 is -2x. And then 30 divided by 2 is -15. And then I remember my goal is factored form, those 2 parentheses that help give me my intercepts. So I leave this -2 in front. If you want to use box method, you can, but we're looking for factors that multiply to be -15, add up to be -2. So factors that multiply to be -15 and add up to be -2 would be -5 and +3. So we have x minus 5x plus 3. Once we have those forms, then we can find the intercepts. The intercepts would be x equals 5, 0 and -3, 0. All right, second conversion. What if we have the factored form, like I did before, and we want to go to standard form? Well, then we're just going to use the distributive property or extended distributive property. So the first thing that I notice is I have a -3 and I have 2 binomials, so I'm going to just leave that -3 alone, and I'm going to start first by multiplying 2 of the 3 things. I'm going to save the -3 for last. So I'm going to leave it out here with the understanding that, hey, I'm going to make sure I distribute that -3 through. All right, so we have to do our firsts. So x times x is x squared. We have to then do our outsides. X times -2 is -2x. Our insides plus 4x. These are like terms. We'll talk about that in a second. And then 4 times -2 is -8. Okay, so just a reminder, those middle 2 terms are going to be like terms. -2x plus 4x combines to be 2x. All right, the very last thing then is I have to distribute my -3 to each of the terms in the parentheses. That would give me -3 times x squared, -3 times the 2x, which would be -6x, and -3 times -8 would be plus 24. So this is standard form. One up here, this is a different example, but that's the intercept form. Okay, what if I have a vertex form? So let's recall one of the first things we studied was vertex form, because that gives us the vertex of the parabola. So just a reminder, what x plus 3 squared means is not x squared plus 3 squared. If it helps you write it out, it really means x plus 3 times x plus 3. And so we're going to, in the same way that we did the last example, distribute or square the binomial, multiply it by itself. I'm going to go ahead and do the part that says x plus 3 times x plus 3. Then I'm going to distribute a -1 to the entire thing. And then I'm going to add like terms. So y equals -1. This time I'm going to, instead of like up here when I have these middle two terms added together, I'm going to just do them in my head, okay? We have x times x, which is x squared. We're going to have x times 3, which is going to be 3x, and then 3 times x, which is 3x. And 3x plus 3x is 6x. If you need to write it all out, then write those two steps out. So 3x plus 3x, I knew they were like terms, I add them together. The last 3 times 3 is plus 9. I then distribute the -1 and make sure I subtract -4 off the back. So we have y equals -1 or -x squared minus 6x minus 9 minus 4, which combines to be minus 13. All right, so the second portion is just to review, now that we have all these forms, is how do we tell the key feature based on what you're given, okay? So the key features, if we look back in our notes from the other day, it's kind of like just a summary. Standard form, the key feature of standard form is the very last thing in standard form. Only standard form gives us our y-intercept. Factored form, we can find the intercepts from. Vertex form, we can find the vertex from. So let's take a look at this. The very first one, I don't want you to do a whole lot of work. This is an intercept form, so we can find the x-intercepts, and we can also find what way the parabola opens. So the x-intercepts are x when x plus 2 equals 0 and x minus 8 equals 0. So x plus 2 equals 0 when x is -2. So x-intercepts are -2, 0, and it would be what makes this 0. So, and 8, 0. So I know that. Didn't have to do any work to do that. The other thing I know is this opens down from A. So these are just like looking at the form, what do they tell you? All right, next one. This is in standard form. When you're given something in standard form, really the only thing you know is that this last term is the y-intercept. So what this means in standard form is we know the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is the point 0, 2. And we can always tell what way the parabola opens by looking at A. If A is 7, this parabola opens up. All right, let's identify what form this is. So I might even just write them below here just so you have them. This is an example of vertex form. The telltale of vertex form is the vertex form has the x minus, it has a binomial squared there. That's vertex form. The name vertex form tells me I can figure out the vertex. And the vertex, remember, x is a liar, so it's x minus 5, 3. The vertex is just 5, 3. As always, look at A. A is -2. I can also tell that this is going to open down. Last one. This really is vertex form. Okay, it's also actually a form of intercept form. That's kind of for another day. Okay, you can think of it as the vertex. So the vertex is -2, 0. It also happens to be the x-intercept. So they're just the same thing in that case. And then that opens up. And if you want to have a little bit of a summary, let me just jot these at the bottom of your paper, or maybe you want to jot them at the top of the next. Standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, so there's no parentheses in that one. And I'm just going to highlight the c. That's the key feature of that one. Vertex form, y equals a, you're going to see a parentheses, x minus h squared plus k. The key feature is the vertex, which is the h and the k. And factored form gives us the intercepts. So y equals a, I think we wrote them as like x minus p and q if I remember correctly. Let me flip back to our notes to check. Yep. X minus p, x minus q. Notice it's the form minus again. And the key features are the p and the q, whatever those numbers are, as long as it's subtraction, give you the x-intercepts. All right, so now it's your turn to try some things. If you flip over to page 20, you are asked to move around in the different forms and try those 4, please.